Barely. The City of Hialeah first budget meeting for fiscal year ending 2022, fiscal year 23. Today is September 14th. I'm calling the meeting to order at, why am I not seeing my clock? At 7:09. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Present.
Ms. Casa Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robles,
Present.
Ms. Perez is absent, Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Mr. Tumidor is absent, Mr. Zogby.
Present.
Mr. President, you have enough members to conduct business.
Thank you. Can you lead us in the invocation, Madam Clerk?
Lord, we pray for the city council and for the budget set before them today. Please guide them in benefit of those who live and work in the city of Hialeah. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance. Can I ask Councilman Rodriguez to lead us? Thank you, sir.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay. Madam Clerk, can you please read the meeting guidelines for tonight?
All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to one appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page. Members of the public may hear the meeting live through telephonic conferencing using any telephone or cellular phone service. A smart device or computer are not necessary to participate in the meeting if you join by phone. All persons participating via the web platform will be muted during the meeting until called upon to be heard. Participation through Zoom requires a computer or smart mobile device with a microphone and web camera. The participant may elect to participate in the meeting using audio only or appear through both audio and video. The video function of all participants appearing through video will be turned off until called upon to be heard.
Thank you very much. Item 6 allows for comments and questions. This is from the audience online. Did we receive any anticipated comments or questions, Madam Clerk?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay, is there anybody that I'm missing online, on Zoom? Is there anybody from
No.
the audience has any comments or questions before we go on with our budget meeting? Sir, name and address for the record.
Eric Johnson, Hialeah Firefighters Local 1102, address exempt as per Florida Statute 112. Let it not be a secret that I am probably the city's biggest budget critic for 20 years. I will say this is a very weird year where I stand before you and I say, wow, with a capital W. The budget has been nothing less than transparent down to the penny. First year where we don't have to, should I say, try our best to find the dollars. The dollars were there. Mr. Mayor, I want to salute you. What you said when you came into office is we would have absolute transparency and access. With your new finance director, Ruth Ruby, and her staff, it has been exactly that, transparent, something we are not used to. There were no secrets. Normally, I spend months before the budget meeting, and I find the ghost positions, the position that we fill full of money, and I bring them up. Normally, I stand here with 60 or 80 pages of errors before you, and everybody laughs at me, and the budget passes anyways, and we go on. This year, it's different. They're not there. We actually budgeted appropriately. The people that were not here, we didn't include them in the budget. We didn't provide the fluff. It was a very tight budget. And we thank you because you've made my life a lot easier this year. And Ruth, I want to celebrate you publicly and your staff. You guys are incredible. What we're facing today is years of bad past practice, bad budgeting, and bad piss poor planning, which has yielded piss poor results. The fact of the matter is, budgetary wise, just by me, and I'm just a dumb fireman, I believe we're running about a $3 million deficit this year, starting the year, unfortunately. And I could be off by a couple $100,000, but I wouldn't say more. We've had to pull from reserves to get through this budgetary year. Although we have all the building in the world and we have great construction and people always pouring money, wanting to invest in Hialeah because we are the donut hole in South Florida, we have a long way to go and we have a lot of work to do. We really do. But in celebration of the budget, it's absolutely incredible. I do want to speak in favor of keeping the millage the way it is. If we don't, we will fall back into the same trap we did in the market crash in 2008, 2009. Unfortunately, under the prior administration, due to popularity, we lowered the millage. That crippled us. What it meant is we were taking away from our employees. And I will remind you of the story in those years where we took from the employees up to 40% cuts. It became my passion and my reality as I found 2 city employees with 4 children living in a van outside of a McDonald's in Hialeah. It became a personal mission. Because instead of doing what was fiscally and financially appropriate and responsible, we just took from the people who had the least. To grow the city, we have to invest in the city. We have to invest in its employees. We have to invest in our council. We have to invest in each other. We have to invest in our citizens. If you allow me another 60 seconds for personal privilege, I would much appreciate it. Thank you, sir. This is the first administration in many years where we saw the investing taking place. And I thank the mayor publicly, and I thank the council. And more so than ever, I don't think anybody here in the room has ever heard me thank the department heads, because a lot of you have come a long way over the years. I don't know if everybody knows, but I have been diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately. The reality of my profession. 1 in 6 firefighters in Dade County between active and retired, we have cancer. No fear, I'll beat it. I'm stubborn. You guys know me. Just going to be sick for a while. This will probably be my last budget meeting or my last council meeting for a while. Take to heart what I'm saying. I've stood before you for 20 years. Some of you politicians go or come for 4 years at a time. But the actions that you take in your 4 years could potentially destroy my 30-year career. They could potentially destroy the career of many thousands of people, has been done in the past. When you make a promise, keep the promise. Part of that promise is proper budgeting. And this is the first time I've ever seen proper budgeting in the city of Hialeah's history. Thank you.
Eric, thank you. You've been a great representation from your membership, and we're going to miss you while we're gone. You better be back stronger than ever. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. Anyone have anything to say? Any other person here for comments? I'm going to say it. Come up. And I'm going to say it in Spanish too. I don't need a translator now because I'll say exactly what I'm going to say. In case there's anyone out there who came to make any comments on our budget meeting. Si hay alguien que está en el auditorio que vino para hacer algún comentario sobre nuestra reunión de presupuesto hoy, háganlo saber, déjenme saber y pueden venir hasta 3 minutos a expresarse aquí delante de nosotros. Okay. Ma'am, so I need your name. Do you speak English? Perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry. Name and address for the record, and you've got up to 3 minutes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Marilu Manso. I live at 7736 West
Yes, ma'am.
14th Avenue.
Mhm.
Mi nombre es Marilu Manso. Yo vivo en el 7736 West 14th
Oh, you don't
Avenue.
have to translate it. You can go in English.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you. The reason I come before you today, it's I recently had an issue with water department. In the month of May, I paid $855, and $350 of those $855 went to service fees that for disconnection, et cetera, et cetera. What happened with my account, and has been happening for some time, is that when you come to make payments to the water department, they make the customers pay the reinstation fee, cash, and the payment that you make, they take the fees first, and then they go ahead and they leave the water bill, whatever portion you have on the water bill, it stays open. So then you continue to accrue. It's a systematic error. That's the bottom line. I'm not here to mention to you guys about that. What I'm here to comment is, in the process of looking into it and trying to see who do I go to, I mean, what is the process? How do I, raise this to a higher level? I visited the Public Works Department 17 times, 18 times last Friday. I was able to meet with 2 supervisors. I got the same answer from the 2 supervisors that I got from the cashier since the month of May. I got the same answer from the 2 supervisors in July, and the answer is those are service fees. They're handled by Mr. Jimenez, and I don't like to use employee names. This is handled by the assistant public directors and the public director. And those are funds that I handle by them. I said, well, I need to know what is the process. I like to find it in the budget. Where do I find the line item so that I can find out what are those fees? Why am I being charged for these fees? And why is it so eminent that, you grab my service and, and you make me pay these fees? And ironically, one of the first things I read on the budget for the Public Works Department is that they do specialized services for disabled people. I mean, I am a disabled parent with 2 I have heart issues. So I'm disabled and I have 2 special needs children. The city has cut off my water twice. I've had to have my child with autism. She's traumatized because I had to warm up water. And I promise you, any of the city or when they do this investigation, you will see that I did not incur those fees. The problem is the systematic error. They continue to make it happen. so that I have to keep coming back. So the problem that I came here is not to complain about that, because I think pretty other people might complain. What I found along the process is that the water department or the public works department seems to have this knowledge, this concept, every employee, that they're completely detached or separate from the city. I'm a government employee myself priorly. I've worked for over 10 municipalities, and never did I encounter anything where there's a division of departments. I never worked below management level, but I never encountered such a mentality. So actually, what I've come to the conclusion, and please just give me a minute to conclude, what I came to the conclusion to find, I found on your budget the way that, and I don't want to take away the hard work that the ladies have made. I looked at the budget for the last 5 years. I don't know what was presented or not. I was just looking for my numbers and to arrive to the $25,000 that there is in the, in the public works department, that I would like to ask if there's a possibility. I mean, I can even begin to list my complaint, but there was a possibility that they have some sort of committee, some sort of funding that could be there for the residents like me that have a situation and need to follow it through. On the budget, they have 26 employees for customer service, yet not one was able to help me. I
And
mean, you have a liaison that I was never able to meet with that
Miss
person.
Manso, can I offer you tonight someone who will call you? Can I do that? And I thank you for letting us know. And we appreciate your frustration, and we apologize for all the inconveniences. Sir, is there anyone here tonight that we can refer her, that can take her information, maybe follow up? Mr. Martinez, can you follow Miss Manso, right, to the hallway? And he will take your information. I promise you he will follow up.
I met with Mr. Martinez. I would like to meet with someone from.
And we're going to have Mr. Gomez from the mayor's office come with you too, and he's going to, okay? They'll follow up, I
That does not
promise.
complete all of my concerns.
But you're going to tell them, but I want you to tell them, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for seeing me, and thank you for the great job.
Thank you,
I've
Ms.
been a resident
Manso.
for 40 years, and I'm very, very proud of my city. I'm
Thank
always
you.
traveling, so I never get to enjoy it. Last 2 years that I've been home, I'm very, very proud of my city.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any comments? Sir, come on up. Oh, are you with Miss Manso? Okay, I thought you were coming up. Have a great evening, sir. Thank you for coming. Is there anyone else? ¿Hay alguien más que quiera hacer un comentario antes de seguir con la reunión? Okay, thank you all. Madam Clerk, any announcements or amendments or corrections to the agenda?
None, sir.
Okay. Before we go into the items of the agenda, I'm going to pass it over to our mayor. And would you please take over the meeting for a while, sir?
Thank you. Thank you, Council President, and thank you to the members of the council. Before I make comments, what I'd like to do is have Ruth come up and go ahead and go through the presentation of the budget. And I have some comments to make with regards to what she's going to be presenting. So if it's the pleasure of the board, Ruth, take over.
So good evening. Ruth Ruby, Executive Director of Finance Management, 501 Palm Avenue. We're here for the first budget hearing to adopt the proposed millage rate and budgets for the city of Hialeah. The second budget hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, September 28th. Presentation outlines as follows. We have an annual budget process timeline that we're going to go over. We will be going over the 2023 proposed budget for all funds, proposed general fund budget by function, general fund revenue variances, proposed millage rates, proposed capital budgets. To walk you through this year's budget process, we started the budget with a budget kickoff with all department directors in April. Through the months of May and July, we held the individual meetings with all budget directors. July 1st, we received the certified property values for the property from the property appraiser's office. July and August, we compiled, reviewed, revised, balanced, and assembled the budget, which has led us to today, September 14th, for the first public budget hearing. Wednesday, September 28th, will be our second public budget hearing. September 30th is the end of this fiscal year, and October 1st begins our first 2023 budget cycle. Next slide. The purpose of this presentation is to recap the proposed fiscal year 2023 operating budget with a focus on the general fund and capital budget. Fiscal year 2023 proposed budget for all funds is $388,811,119, which represents a decrease of $22.9 million over the FY 2022 adopted budget. And it's primarily due to the decrease in ARPA funds that we're budgeting in FY 2023. Additional financial highlights that we want to basically represent is the general fund budget is the largest budget of the city, representing 47% of the total budget. The increases that you will see in the public works funds are due to the Miami-Dade County's increases to the wholesale water and sewer of approximately $3.9 million in additional costs. While the code requires that water and sewer rates be adjusted by CPI, in order to minimize that impact of inflation to the residents, the mayor is recommending not to apply a CPI increase to not worsen the impact on the water rates. All this results in an increase of $3.61 per month to the average customer, as opposed to the $8.97 per month they would have seen on their bill. As mentioned above, decreases in special revenue funds of $41 million is mainly due to the reduction of ARPA funds that were budgeted in 22 and no longer budgeted in 23. Street fund budget has increased by $1.5 million, and it's primarily due to an increase to their capital plan. You will also see slight decreases in debt service fund, which is due to the recent refinancing of some of the city's outstanding debt. Next slide. So I want to focus now on basically the general fund, and FY 2023 proposed general fund budget is $183,124,000, an increase of $12.5 million over the FY 2022 adopted budget. Primary reason for the increase are increases to public safety, which represents 71% of the total general fund budget. The focus of this general fund budget is life and safety, infrastructure improvements, enhanced programming for our parks, libraries, and education and community services. Next slide. This is basically the breakdown of our general fund by departments, and it will give you the variances. Next slide. The proposed general fund budget revenues is this next slide, and I want to kind of like break it down for you. So our property tax revenue is the largest source of revenue to the general fund, the city's primary operating fund. Property taxable income, as reported by the Property Appraiser's Office for FY 2023, is $92,014,961, up from $81,269,105, and or 13.2%. The rest of the general fund revenue budget is comprised of utility taxes, state and local shared revenues, franchise taxes, and various other revenue sources. Next slide. This is the variance compared to FY22 of our revenue received in the general fund.
Are there any questions at this point from the council?
Very clear, very clear.
Okay.
Can you repeat?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Can you repeat what you said about the pricing of water a month, the change that you said?
Yes. So basically, the CPI, the waiver of the CPI that the mayor is proposing will basically result in only the consumer paying $3.61 as opposed to an $8.97 a month they would have seen on their bill. Thank you.
Sir,
361 a month? A month. $3.9 million, yes.
And really quick, is the 361 monthly or is it on the pay cycle? That's, the bill cycles every 2 months or 3 months?
Okay, I don't have that. The $3.61 to the water bill that the consumer will receive, is that bi-monthly or monthly?
Monthly, so it's an average of, let's say, $7 a bill. Thank you so much. So,
Not.
Amanda, I'm sorry, can you speak closer to the microphone so it'll be recorded for the record? Thank you, sir.
Learn something new, right? So what happens is, if we are to pass on the CPI, it would really blow up. It's 9%, all right? And as far as inflation is concerned, and it would really blow up the rates. And you know, and we have discussed in these days, in this forum, that we're very concerned about the rates increasing, and the rates then affecting the bond rating. Doesn't matter to me if I'm going to charge you $1 million a gallon for 100 gallons if you can't pay it. So all we're doing is creating worse receivables and bad accounts. So after a lot of discussions with the mayor, we decided, and we have done this in the past. There's a precedent for this. We did it during the Robina administration. And the precedent is we decided to take, for lack of a better word description, a CPI holiday. But we need your approval. And the reason we need your approval, Lorena would tell you, is part of the code. And the code says that we shall collect a CPI. So I need for you to waive that condition in order for us not to pass the CPI along to the customer. Thank you.
Thank you,
The
sir.
one last thing before she goes on to her presentation, I think it's important to understand, because you're going to be asked, and there's going to be questions with regards from the media on this. The county is under a federal directive, a lawsuit per se. It's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit that every resident, every user, every account in the county is being held up for. They vote on this on the Board of County Commission. I voted against these things on the Board of County Commission. Many commissioners do, but it passes, and it passes every year. And in essence, I know that the city, I know we're doing this year, I know that the city has tried everything possible to eat that cost and come up with every scenario possible. But I think it's extremely important that when you speak on this issue, the residents have to understand why this is happening. It is not something that you're doing here on the board. It's nothing that the city is doing. It is simply we're acting as a pass-through on something that is federally mandated. And, you know, to my chagrin, the county's never tried to fight or try to go back to the lawsuit to see if they could change it or address this. But as long as we're under this decree where, you know, we have to close our system, treat the water and all that, it is a multi-billion with a B process that we're going through. And unfortunately, the residents of the city of Hialeah, but every resident in the county is dealing with this. We're fortunate enough that we have a little bit of wiggle room to address it. But even with that, there's going to be a spike, a $3 spike, $7, 7 and change per water bill. But we're going to address later in the presentation some things that we like for the department to consider and for you all to consider as a city council. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So this chart summarizes the city's operating tax millage rate. As you see, the city has not increased its millage rate since 2013 and proposes to keep the millage rate the same at 6.3018 for fiscal year 2023. The city's capital budget of $45,846,828 is comprised of major infrastructure improvements, life and safety, parks and recreation projects, and capital improvements. Next slide. $6 million has been budgeted to address life and safety equipment that has reached its useful life, as well as new vehicles for police department replacing vehicles that are over 15 years old. In addition, it includes the design of a new 911 communication tower at the annex, which will enhance the radio frequency capabilities of our first responders, amongst other equipment. Next slide.
Question
budget-
sorry, question.
sorry.
On the vehicle police, we're going to lease them or we're purchasing? I'm just curious about
We're
that.
looking at perhaps a combination. Okay, we haven't decided yet.
Cars are very hard to come by right now.
And very
as you well
expensive
know.
right now,
Yes.
so.
I'm sorry,
No.
what page is this? Because it's not 12 on ours, is it?
It is.
On this book?
Well,
No, I'm sorry.
we're finishing 11 and we're moving into,
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
so in Public Works, the budget contemplates 14.1 million of major infrastructure improvements that addresses rehabilitation of pump stations, lining of lining of sewer mains throughout the city, construction of sewer lines, city water tanks, and upgrades to name a few of the projects. Next slide. Stormwater and drainage improvement projects are targeted for this fiscal year at a total budget of $14.7 million. Next slide. Several citywide capital replacement and renewal projects have been identified, and noted are the improvements to the JFK Library replacement of the roof and some interior renovations, as well as minor capital improvements. Next slide. $5.9 million have been budgeted for capital improvements in our parks, with the focus of enhancing the residents' experience of making Hialeah a great place to live, work, and play. Next slide. Information technology, $3.2 million have been set aside for improvements. Noted is the citywide Wi-Fi accessibility initiative, which will provide Wi-Fi capabilities in all of our parks, our affordable housing facilities, and some of our major facilities. And then this last slide just represents minor capital improvements that are basically budgeted for this fiscal year. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ruth. Let me indulge me, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Ruth, for that presentation. And I have had the chance to meet with many of you and go over that presentation that you just saw. I consider myself a conservative in many aspects of my life, but none more than when it comes to financial matters. And I treat the coffers of the residents of the city of Hialeah, what they have deposited in our hands, I consider the only way to do this is a very conservative mindset. Now, conservative does not necessarily mean that you cut taxes irresponsibly. As much as I would love to reduce taxes, I am mindful of what we inherited as a city. And please do not misunderstand my statements. This is not an attack on anybody. This is realities of our city. We have a blue-collar city that works extremely hard and expects that the money that they send to us to be implemented in the wisest way possible. What this budget that you have before you addresses that. Ruth just mentioned something, and I think we need to take more into this. Our millage rate is not just low for the last couple of years. Our millage rate is historically low. our millage rate is comparable to millage rates of the 1960s. We have done in this city of Hialeah over the course of the last 20 years, we have literally done more with less. However, though, it would be irresponsible of me not to share with you that over the last couple of years, we have artificially balanced the budget. We've artificially done it because we have literally skinned every ounce that we could in order to make budget. We have literally stole from one department to another in order to make budget. We have had consistently shortfalls in our budget over the last couple of years. Now, Santa Claus came in the form of ARPA, which saved last year's budget and will be used in some portion for this year's budget. But Santa Claus is going away and will not be a reality after that, which forces us as the custodians of people's money to make sure that we are being as efficient as possible. Let me add that while I'm proud of the work that our staff has done here, and I'm proud of the budget that we are presenting, we still do not address all the needs in our city. Yes, we've addressed the issues of police. As many of you know, we were the training ground for police officers across the city, if not the state. Officers were coming into our ranks, leaving within 5 years, and became superstars in other departments. I would submit to you that the residents of the city of Hialeah do not deserve that. And the only way to address this issue was to make sure that we even the playing field with other departments. That meant negotiating with the unions on the police side and making sure that we could up our game so that I don't have 5-year officers leaving. And the way that I look at this, and I'm not going to try to pretend to be a police officer, but for me as a resident, the sweet spot for a police officer is that officer that's here within that 12-year period, 5 and 12 years. Responsible officers, they have a family, okay? They're going to treat our residents with more dignity and respect. That's not to throw shade at the 2 or 3-year officer, okay? But I'm going to tell you, at that age, you give me a gun and I would probably act irresponsible too. That sweet spot's extremely important. We've invested in training. We've invested in a way to make sure that our police department is back in the big leagues, collaborating with other departments. And that doesn't happen by osmosis. It happens by expending and investing. We've added to our police ranks with hopes that we could continue to do that. We've invested in our fire department. Our men and women, as Mr. Johnson, Mr. Eric Johnson stated, and you have my prayers. Our officers of our department run high risks of cancer. A lot of it is correlated to the equipment that they use. We have an obligation in order to be able to support them who are out there in our community attending to many of the residents. It's an obligation that we have. We can't hide from it. So I know that the temptation, especially in today's era, and I will say this publicly, and I've said it to his face, what Pedro Garcia did as a property appraiser by calling out and saying that the cities are awash with money was a fundamental mistake because he doesn't know the realities of the city of Hialeah. We're not awash with money. The $10 million increase that you see in our budget and revenue is basically a product of the hard work that many of you did. I get no credit for this. Many of you did before I got here, setting a tone of investment in our city. We are reaping the rewards of those that have come in our city, and I expect more to come. And it's responsible on our end to make sure that that money is being expended wisely. I would invite all of you to take a look at all our parks, our park buildings, and understand the conditions that our park buildings are at. I would submit to you again, the residents of the city of Hialeah do not deserve park conditions where the roofs are leaking, where the programming doesn't exist, where the conditions of our parks is third world. They don't deserve it. And we need to invest in this area. If we want to bring baseball back, and we're on the verge of making some announcements in baseball, we need to invest in these areas. But I understand the temptation of reducing taxes. I understand it, full force, I understand it. But I will submit to you that playing with our millage and lowering it, even by 1%, is $1 million hit. And the savings that you're going to give to the residents of the city of Hialeah is about $1.35 a month. I don't know if that's worth going down an exercise. And you could just follow the math. 2% cut, a 3% cut. You could go to a 0. You wipe out all the growth that you've invested in, and you could basically shut your parks 3 days a week, not 2, 3 days a week. You could just start shutting things down, and when people call for service, tell them you could shrug your shoulder, we don't have enough money. But I would tell you again, the residents of the city of Hialeah deserve a lot better. The last thing I want to share with you, the second to last thing I want to share with you, is that when we do a comparison of the city of Hialeah and its millage rate compared to other cities, even the ones that entertain the reduction, they still pay higher taxes than we do. I need you to understand and get your mind around that over the last 23 years, this city has lowered its millage rate. The mayors in this city, I believe, whether some may argue or not, acted always in the best interest of the residents, and they held the line as much as they possibly could. But here we are now today. We're in the sweet spot of the city of Hialeah. People are coming to invest every single day. The market in Hialeah is more than red hot. We should be able to reap the rewards. Our parents and grandparents should be able to reap the rewards of the sacrifice that they've had by providing them quality service. I would submit to you, and I showed many of you this sheet yesterday, and for those that haven't seen it, I'll be more than happy to sit down with you. When you go through this and you understand, when you tell me that the city of Miami reduced its millage, well, they were high to begin with, because the last time I checked, I don't think any of you have a sergeant of arms that drives you back and forth to meetings. If you do, you need me to tell me how you're paying for it. It's a reality. Other cities that cut their millage rate still are higher than we are. And if you take the combined millage rate of what we pay to the school board, to the county, we are $3 below, $3 per thousand below every other city in this chart that we had given you. In fact, what we ask our residents is $412 per capita. It is the lowest in Miami-Dade County, second lowest in the state of Florida. Let that sink in for a second, okay? What we're doing in this city collectively is with less money, we're providing near top quality service. So I would submit to you that this budget is not only conservative in nature, but this budget addresses issues that our residents have been asking for when we've knocked on their door. I want to add something, because I did say something earlier that we still fall short. We do. We still fall short. And I said yesterday when we were in our meeting, I said to you all that there's a cancer out there, no pun intended, that is going to require a massive intervention over a course of time. $856 million of unfunded liabilities that are related to pensions, that are relating to taking care of the employees that were here before us, which, by the way, there's more of them than there is actually on the payroll right now, accrued sick and vacation. And this is not a slam at the employees of our city. They do what every other employee does in municipal government. They take full advantage of the unused sick and vacation to pad their retirement. It is what it is. It is what it is. And we're trying to take measures to stop that, because we can't afford it. Because I'm writing checks to people that leave the city that have been here a long time to the tune of $100,000 to $125,000, $160,000. We can't afford it long term. And if 2 or 3 of my long-term employees leave at the same time, I don't know what we do then at that point. This is reality. This is reality. And not to mention, we are right now under the knife, because I can't say it in any other way, under the knife of the county in order to build and allow businesses to open in the city of Hialeah. Because we have failed fundamentally over the last 25 years to invest in the pump stations and the water and sewer area. $14, $15 million shy of investing in this area. If we don't address that, guys and ladies, if we don't address it, we're not going to grow this city. You're going to have the folks that want to expand that knock on your door and say, Commissioner, Councilman, I need to expand. And Armando won't let me, or Durham won't let me. Understand why that's happening. Because we failed to invest. So either we're honest with the residents, and I know that investment under the ground is not sexy. I know it's not, because you don't see it, you can't touch it. But I'll tell you what, you do that investment, you'll have more restaurants opening in the city of Hialeah. Okay, you'll have more businesses coming to the city of Hialeah. You'll have more development that's going to be positive to the city of Hialeah. I would tell you, this is the sobering part about being mayor, where you see these numbers and you start understanding, my goodness, either we're going to be straight with the residents of our city and tell them where we're going to invest it, and then by all means do what we say we're going to do, or if not, we're going to live in the cycle of what I told you I don't want to do, which is let's just get to the next election. We get to the next election, we'll just cut taxes. You know what? Let the employees figure it out. Let's get it off their backs. I'm telling you, the residents of the city of Hialeah deserve a lot better than that. We're the second largest city in Miami-Dade County. Well, damn it, we better start acting like the second largest city. We got issues in our city with regards to transportation, infrastructure. We need to address these issues. We can't keep burying our head in the sand. And the last thing I wanted to point out to you, in your budget book, I pointed out to all of you when we had a chance, there is $1 that is cut. And it shows you what we pay to the city of Hialeah, the school board, the county, and others. We're paying more money to our public school system, which is at 50% capacity in most of our schools, than we do to the city of Hialeah. We pay more to the school system, whether you have kids in public school or not. I don't care if you're woke, leftist, liberal, conservative, it doesn't matter. You're paying more to the public school system than you are to the city of Hialeah. That's a problem. That's a problem. Because I guarantee you, we have more obligations than they do. And by the way, your millage covers everything. Library, fire. Other cities have all these things spread out. That's the reality of our financial situation in our city. This budget, and I applaud Ruth, her team, my staff, because they've done all the nitty-gritty work of meeting with departments and painstaking, and I've been pushing them. And we started with an $11 million deficit. It then went down to 7. It went down to 3 and 4. Now we're in a sweet spot that we can make budget. There's still some storm waters ahead. Anything other than adopting this budget the way we've presented it, I think would be irresponsible and could set us into a course, because I can't predict what's going to happen with the economy. That could be very, very dangerous. The last thing I want to say, we've heard the issue of water. I have not ignored the issue of water. I've sat down with Armando, and I want this to sink in. If not for the Cpi Holiday, we're paying double of what we're going to be paying in water. It wouldn't be $7 every 2 months. It would be maybe $16 every 2 months. It's responsible to take the Cpi Holiday. It's still doesn't absolve us of continuing to work. And, but I do believe and this young lady that came here today, I think spoke directly to, something that we need to address. And I'm sure we're going to address it today, which is there are folks in our community that even the increase of the $3 is devastating to them. And I've been working with Armando, and I've been working with Councilwoman Casal Munoz to come up with a way that I want you to strongly consider. And then I'll let her address that issue. But I think it would be very, very important in order to help those that are of most need in our community to be able to come and be able to get some additional relief than what we've already talked about. But I would submit you, this is my first budget. We're very proud of it. We submit it to you. It becomes your budget now to pour through it. You have the abilities to make the amendments and the changes. Obviously, you're going to have to work with us if you want to do these things. but I would ask for your favorable vote on this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody on the dais want to make any comment before we go on to the agenda? Thank you. Okay. Item 8A, Madam Clerk, please.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance accepting for budget purposes the Miami-Dade County Assessment Roll, establishing a tax millage rate for the city of Hialeah of 6.3018 mils for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, which is an increase of 12.53% over the rollback rate of 5.6002, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. 8A is on first reading, not open for public discussion at this. All of the
All of
items
them are,
today
yes.
are. Very good. I apologize for that. Item 8A, to adopt the current millage rate for another year, is open for discussion from the public or certainly from us here at the dais. Sir?
Eric Johnson,
Once it-
Hialeah
there you go.
firefighters, standing in rise of support, hopefully gathering the council support to keep the millages listed as it is 6.3018. As explained before to the council, do not fall in the trap that we have fallen in once before. This millage must stick for continued success in Hialeah. And it's not even continued success. It's just to get past this 1 year. It's just to get past this year. And hopefully we will continue to engage the economic growth that we've seen this year. And then we can start to grow as a city. But let me remind you, your numbers don't lie. They don't. We're still in the negatives. And that's not coming from the finance department. That's just coming from a dumb fireman looking at your numbers. We've got to get through this year. And even with this millage, me personally, I asked to raise the millage 10 years ago. They still haven't raised the millage. So we're obviously doing something to make it work. But don't balk now. Please support this millage rate moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure of the council on item
Mr. Chair.
8A. Sir,
Motion.
did you want to comment?
I'd like to comment, yes.
Councilman Calvo.
Thank you for the time. I want to be very careful, I guess, in the words that I use, being respectful to not only my colleagues here on the dais, but obviously the incredible work that has been done by our budget team, by the mayor's staff. You know, they've been working on this for a long time with a lot of grit. Just in regards to basics, obviously tax is an equation. And that equation is composed of two things. It's composed of the millage rate. It's composed of property values. The city's property value increased this past year by 13.2%, tune of almost $2 billion. And it was mentioned prior, Miami-Dade property appraiser Pedro Garcia. This is a communication that he released in August, and I just wanted to briefly point out 2 or 3 things here. Property appraisal Garcia released the 2022 Certificate of Taxable Values to Taxing Authorities, which peaked in Miami-Dade County at an all-time high of $377 billion. He expressed concern to the county and to cities, urging them to reduce their millage rates by 3%, to lower property taxes for homeowners and businesses, in addition to assisting renters who may be experiencing high rental increases. I continue to urge cities unwilling to reduce their millage rate to do what they can to provide property tax relief for the property owners in Miami-Dade County. The reality of the situation is, and I don't disagree with anything that's been said today, those costs, those $10.7 million more in taxes that we will be collecting in fiscal year 2023 if this budget passes, are coming from the residents of Hialeah. You don't have to take my word for it. I mean, it's in the ordinance that we're about to vote on, Section 3. Okay. The ad valorem tax millage rate will stay at 6.3018, which is an increase of 12.53% over the rollback rate. When we get to 8C, we're going to talk about water. We're going to be increasing water by 3.37%, that cost, and the wastewater services by 7.84% respectively. We're going to be increasing solid waste from $33 a month to $36, which is a 9.9 increase year over year. While we're doing that, and I know inflation has been brought up a lot, the latest numbers show that in August of 2022, inflation in this country is at 8.3%. We are in what is considered a mild recession. Altogether, though, out of the $10.7 million more that we are collecting for fiscal year 2023, if approved, $7.6 million, approximately 71% of the new revenue being collected, is going to salaries. Salary increases, health insurance expenses. However, there will be a net decrease of 8 full-time positions to the city's personnel count. That's from the budget book, page 15. Continuing on the topic of water, not only are we going to be raising water on an average, I believe, is 6.12% if you sort of average out the two independent increases. We're proposed today to consider renewing the franchise fee, which is an additional tax on water at the rate of 4%. Now, back in January 11th of this year, I want to be very clear. I proposed a resolution to this body, which was approved later on in February, outlining a series of goals and objectives for this year on the topic of water. It's public record. The Director of Public Works will provide a report to the City Council outlining the impact to consumer water and sewer bills if the city changed output levels to the reverse osmosis water plant. The City Council and the Mayor shall investigate the feasibility of installing sub-meters to willing residents. The City and the Mayor shall explore the creation of a program for residents 65 and older to alleviate their water and sewer bill costs. The City Council and the Mayor shall also explore creating a program to assist residents that receive an inordinate high water bill, likely due to a leakage. City Council and the Mayor shall explore ways of creating a water conservation program with the goal of reducing water consumption by facilitating the conversion to water-efficient fixtures. This resolution was approved by this body, yet none of those items are in our budget. Not a single one. We've been talking about this issue of water meter readers for a while now. And to be specific, we go into our budget, we're going to see that what we are approving for next year is to still have 7 people to read the almost 60,000 water meters in our city. 7 people. We're not adding a single person. 71% of the $10.7 million is going to salary increases. Listen, I understand. I understand the realities, the politics of it. But in my point of view, and I'm just one person, in my point of view, this year out of all years is not the year to be charging our residents more. I would have liked to have seen, as I expressed to the mayor, various alternatives that we could discuss in a sophisticated manner in this body, whether that is a 1% reduction, a 3%, a 13%, or maybe we would all have come to the consensus of keeping it as is. I have no idea. Why? Because we never had the discussion. I was given this budget like we all were on Friday, and we're voting on it today, $388 million. Maybe I'm young, maybe I'm naive, but I gave a promise to the residents of Hialeah, and I truly, not politically, but truly in my heart believe it's important to keep that promise. That promise was not to raise taxes. As however creatively you want to phrase it, we're asking more taxes from the residents of Hialeah. I can't support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or pleasure of the council on item 8A?
Through the chair.
Sir,
Yeah, I have a question. Because we haven't even gotten to water yet, right? This is still,
this is the millage rate.
how is the city raising because I'm not understanding that part, right? How is the city
I'm not either. but
raising
go on,
taxes?
yeah.
Because, we're up here and we do things, sometimes it's different than what the other person might do it, right? But at the end of the day, I want to believe in my heart that what we do is for the betterment of this community. And so the one thing I don't like is when we do things to make a headline and not an impact, right? And so I want to be clear, because when we speak to, whether it's residents in the radio, whether it's residents in the media, I like to make sure that we're very clear with each other, right? And if we're saying that the city of Hialeah wants to raise taxes, I need more clarification on that. Are we increasing the millage rate or not? Are we somehow forcing residents using government tools, using this platform or this day is to increase taxes? Because if that's the case, I can't support it. As far as I'm concerned, Mayor, we're keeping this millage as is, right? And so property values have gone up, something that we can't control. Now, I want to say, Councilman Calvo, I mean, I get it, right? And we all want the best for the city, but if we have some sort of survey that says, look, from our residents, I'm okay with bringing down this millage, but you have to go ahead and remove X, Y, and Z service, then show us that, and I'm fine with that. But until that day comes, I think it's not only irresponsible, but it's reckless to talk about reducing the millage rate with our circumstances. Miami Lakes could go ahead and tout and say that they have one of the lowest millage rates in the county, but who provides their services? They're not a self-service city. We are, and that comes with a cost. Right? And we've talked about that time and time and again, Mayor, and this council, right? What do we want to do with certain services? But that's a conversation for another day. But we have to look at what we have and who we are and make responsible decisions. Now, as long as we're not increasing the millage rate, I can support this, because I can't go back to my grandmother. I can't go back to all those folks that voted for us and tell us that we're going to cut services because we wanted them to save $1 a month, right? And so, I'm okay with this millage rate.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, and as far as salary and hiring team members with work. And as far as, through the
Go on,
chair,
sir.
as far as keeping talent, hiring the right people for the position, I come from the private sector, and I can tell you the average company out there is probably 20 to 25% understaffed right now. You just can't find good employees. So one of the things when we ran and knocked on doors, we wanted to keep the best. We wanted to bring the right people there and pretty much be transparent and keep from them not leaving to different companies. So I'm pretty comfortable with this. We need the investments for our infrastructure. We've seen our parks, God, we've seen our parks. We grew up in our parks. They're bad. And if we do this investment for now, who's gonna pay for it in the future? Somebody has to. Trust me, I don't feel comfortable, but it's the right decision. That's it.
And if I may,
Thank you,
through
sir.
the chair.
Ma'am, absolutely.
I have to concur with Councilman Tundido. Using the word that we're going to be increasing taxes, Councilman, I think is really reckless. And through the last couple of days, we've received several calls from different media outlets wanting to have some clarification on that. So as we sit here, what we can control is the millage rate. If you're not increasing it, you can't go around giving this information that we are somewhat in control of increasing this amount, which we're not. I've been here already for almost 3 years, and the way that this city and many of these department directors that are sitting here today have survived is through the grants department. I have sat with libraries, I've sat with the previous director from Parks and Rec, I've learned how to search for grants. That's how I was able to bring some transit, operating different systems here, learning the grants system, because we don't really have any other flexibility. And once you start seeing that, you take this budget into account and you really honor it, because first thing that I sat down with the mayor and his team is I said, what are we cutting? Are we cutting any days in the parks? Because that's what we had done previously. He said, no, we're increasing it. I asked, is libraries getting their Fridays open? Because we've been closing our libraries. No, we're increasing part-time. So all the services that we're giving back to our residents, we're not cutting that down. And I think that it's echoed in the last couple of years that we've been sitting here, that that's the main concern to the residents. And $1 million, we just cut at $16 average a year by just saying that we lowered the millage just to make a headline. What is that really going to impact the city overall? By saving the residents $16, by lowering it 1%. When you see what your voting does and how it ripple effects in these departments and as our residents, I don't think it's responsible. So I'm okay with the millage rate as it is, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that on this document and the document that you gave us today, or that I saw today, I should say, that shows all the cities that are decreasing their millage rate. They, except for Miami, everybody else has their fire and rescue paid through their county taxes. We are the only ones that provide the fire and rescue through our millage rate, and we are the only ones in the entire list that have the libraries paid through our millage rate as well. So if you calculate those two, and the fire and rescue is 2.3965, which is a really big deal, and we don't pay that. We don't get that money from the county. We pay it out of our millage rate of 6.3018. With that, on 8A, I would like to place a motion to approve.
We have a motion for 8A from Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Garcia Rovez. Please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Thank you. Item 8B, Madam Clerk, please.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the general fund budget for the city of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalty for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to comment about item 8B, adopting the budget as a whole? If no one, discussion or pleasure of the council?
Through the chair.
Sir,
I'm
yes.
sorry, this is just, is it for the, I have a question on special revenue funds. Is that coming up later or? That's a separate, okay, yeah, no worries.
Motion? Thank you, sir. Motion from Councilman Rodriguez.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Madam Clerk, 8C into the record, please. Item 8C.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the Public Works Fund of the City of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, approving water and sewer rate increases as provided for herein to maintain proper coverage ratios as required by outstanding bond covenants, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Casals Munoz, on 8C, I believe there's a document, and And the floor is yours if you wish. Thank you.
One of the things that we're concerned about is the and let me see the exact amount. It was 6.1, was it? $6? It wasn't $6. It was $3.60 that we're upping the on an average, right? Of the water bill a month, correct?
Yeah.
So we understand that some of the people may have difficulties. Any increases that you have, maybe they're right to their exact penny, maybe they're losing money on a monthly basis, they have to borrow it. So we were thinking of using a utility assistance relief program, and I'm saying this in a very a careful way, because what I would like to do is create a new account for 2022 and 2023 water and sewer budget cost. I would like to amend the first budget meeting hearing today with the ordinance of water and sewer and the franchise fee from 4% of sales tax to 3.75 sales tax. I would like to get funding generated by getting a UARP program of $203,000 a year for this relief that we're calculating. And I know that Mr. Vidal was looking over the numbers as well. I would like to propose a program coordinating and reviewing applicants that qualify. This doesn't mean that if you qualify, this is going to be for the rest of your life. There's going to be a time limit to it. So if you need help, we're going to figure out how long you need help. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have illness in their families that they can't work. And this is just a temporary relief. Some of the criteria that we're considering, and it's open to discussion with the council member, is a residence, customer only within the area, proof of crisis, job loss, medical emergency. And God only knows that I've had medical emergencies all the month of the month of August and September with family members. A limit amount of aid per household. That's something that FP&L does as well. A maximum amount that you could use within a household within a year of $5,000 max, and proof of household income. And this is the impact that we were calculating based on the amount of people that we would help is about $203,000, like I said. And I would like for the council to consider this, or if you have any questions, it's in front of you. I think everybody received a copy of it. But that's something that we could add to this item that we're speaking about today.
Through the
Sir.
chair- through the
Yes,
chair,
thank you,
if I-
ma'am.
if I might, sir. I support this amendment. We've had discussions with residents that I understand are in a fixed income situation. We heard a case today of somebody that has some health issues with their children. And these things can become problematic for those, especially when they're trying to navigate and paying bills. I think this should be couched as a pilot program. A pilot program in the sense that I think this council should review this program after a year. I want to be very careful. And when we start creating government programs that we're starting to put money in, they never go away. I want to be very careful. I want us to be able to review this, make an assessment. Where I think this could be a good thing for our residents is we create the criteria. And we will work with the department. We'll probably work this through the grants department. We'll create a criteria. We'll bring it back to you for review. But I think that, we want to make sure that people are going through the process of applying, that there could be some verifications. And once they qualify, then there could be a contribution made that could help even lower the small amount of the increase. So I support this and would encourage you all to support this amendment.
We would theoretically, Madam Attorney, be voting on a amended 8C if we have a motion? If Madam Casals would make a motion, then that would,
So any line item amendments to a specific budget require by vote. I think that you have to make sure that you have a projected revenue source that will also match your expenditure so that there's an adjustment to the bottom line. And that then your overall budget that change is reflected in your overall budget. So I'm not understanding whether there's one, a funding source that's been identified.
UARP.
Two, that whether this is going to be some readjustment of some funds in the budget, and so there's going to be no net change within the funds budget or across.
Yeah, somebody from
And
finance
if
perhaps.
we could allow the director to, oh, he's walking over. Thank you.
The amendment would not be on C. The amendment would be more appropriate, Lorena, on E, which is the one dealing with the franchise fees. So you're taking
Okay.
the franchise
Yeah.
fees from 4 to 3.75. That generates the funding that the councilwoman was talking about in order to fund that expense.
So in order to reduce the advertising ordinance, at this time, the budget was proposing no change to the I don't think that there would be any prohibition in having the general fund, who would be receiving the 4% of the franchise fund,
And then making the
transfer
financial
the budget
transaction, correct.
to transfer that amount to the department. So I'm understanding there is no net effect.
But you could go ahead for the second budget hearing and advertise the amendment and I mean, the correct amount, dropping the franchise fee from 4 to 3.75, and you will have sufficient time to advertise.
Well, you have first reading at the second budget hearing, and I don't know if we're in time for advertisement for that. And then you'd need a second reading in October for the franchise fee, if that's the route.
Well,
that this administration would accept.
Yeah, the program, the way that I have discussed it, would not become effective really until January 2nd. So you got plenty of time you identify the expense account, you identify the funding source, you know what you need to do with the franchise fee ordinance, and then you got plenty of time to develop the rules, come back to council, have council discuss it, let them approve it, and decide how they want to do it. And then come January 2nd, you will have everything in place. Does that work for you? Okay.
Either option, I think, works.
Okay.
As long as I'm understanding the pool of revenues remains the same. You're just creating a new account.
Yeah,
within the
yeah,
department's
because
budget.
what happens is it's circular, right? As you're saying. So you're putting the funding down. The funding will go to somebody who's in need. They will use those funds to pay the bill, and then that comes back to the department. So, yeah.
I think the only thing I suppose we would
Mhm.
have to address
That's right.
is the reduction in the franchise
right.
fee in terms of the general.
Right. The impact on the general fund. Correct.
That is gonna change. So I think that you need to address what the calculations of those amendments are today, because we are adopting a tentative budget, and that is part of the budget summary that you have to.
So that's the amount that we had discussed, correct? Correct? The 203,000, right?
So if I may, through the chair,
Ma'am,
so that 203,000,
750.
yes, that is how many residents that we're capping it at, that we're,
Well, it depends. That's the maximum that we're allowing
We're
for the
gonna-
program,
so
for
how
the
m-
pilot program.
how many people is
It
that?
depends.
Jason?
It depends what they need. Some might need a little bit more, some might need a little bit less, depending on their situation. So
'Cause
as
we
long
have-
as we don't go past this amount.
Because we don't have parameters yet of how long.
We don't
we're
have
gonna
the
do it.
parameters yet,
We don't have any
right.
of that.
But we do know that the parameters are not, that one of the things that we don't want to do is make sure that this is going to be extended for a long period of time. This is, you have, you've lost a job, people have been ill, you can't afford it for a short period. This isn't like for the rest of their lives that we're going to pay that difference of the water bill.
We're going to go back to this on 80 though, right? Okay. So for now, but we have the explanation. So I guess this is proper for 80. So we're back to 8C in pleasure of the council.
Sir,
for
before we
item-
take a vote, we
Yeah.
have to correct the seventh whereas clause on the proposed ordinance. It should read, notwithstanding Hialeah, Florida Code Section 94-153 subsection C, the proposed budget for the Public Works Fund does not propose an adjustment to the water and wastewater rates to reflect an increase in the consumer price index.
Duly noted. Yeah. Okay.
On 8C? Okay.
Okay. So back to 8C.
So through the chair,
Ma'am?
approval with the correction for the Scrivener's error for
is-
8C?
Yes, with the Scrivener's
For
error.
8C,
Yes,
right?
yes, ma'am, you are
Okay,
correct.
so
we
it's
have a motion?
with corrections.
Correct, right?
Yes,
Yes,
that's a motion.
yes, Madam
Yes.
Clerk. Do we have a second on 8C?
Second.
Second from Councilman Calvo. Please call the roll.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez, Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 8D, read into the record.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the annual consumer price index CPI adjustment for solid waste and recyclable service collection rates pursuant to Hialeah Code Section 78-127 subsection B in the amount of 9.9% designated consumer price index for all urban consumers as issued by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
Item 8D is open for public discussion. Having none, open for discussion here at the dais or pleasure of the council.
Through the chair.
Ma'am,
Mayor, is this the CPI we had spoken about earlier, the CPI of, that we are
Contractually obligated to on the solid waste.
on the solid waste, correct? So this is not the water
This is not the
CPI.
water.
This
This is
is
not the water.
specifically the contract that we have with the waste.
Yes.
Okay. Motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Did you motion that?
Motion.
Yes.
Motion from Councilwoman Casals Munoz. On item 8D.
Second.
Second from Councilman Rodriguez. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Calvo,
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez, Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr.
God
Zogby.
bless you.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 8E, please.
Proposed resolution reaffirming the current rate of 4.0% of all sales of wastewater service and all sales of water service within the city as payment in lieu of franchise fee pursuant to Hialeah, Florida Code Section 94-163 for fiscal year 2023, beginning on October 1st, 2022, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, in absence of our city attorney, do you think we should come back to this? Or
I
do
was
we
just
have?
gonna ask that.
Or
Thank
can
you.
we take a vote? Okay, we'll come back to it.
Come back to the-
Yes.
They're
Let's get her opinion.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Madam Clerk, we'll move right along to 8F for now.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the Streets Fund of the City of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Item 8F is open for public discussion, if any. Having none, pleasure of the council on 8F.
Motion.
Motion from Councilman Tundador,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read 8G into the record.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the Stormwater Fund of the City of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. 8G is also open for public discussion, if any. Having none, pleasure of the council.
Through the chair.
Sir.
Just have a quick question.
Yes,
The 3.6 million that we collect from stormwater, how do we collect that? Is that through water?
Mr. Vidal? Is that something you can
Stormwater.
help with?
The stormwater
8G,
fee?
8G, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, okay, so it comes in the solid waste, okay. And it's been it's been the same across the board, right, for the last couple of years? Same rate?
Forever.
Since 93? So how do we fare, hey, Jose, how do we compare to other municipalities as far as the fee that we charge for stormwater?
Good evening, Jose Sanchez, Director of Streets, 900 East 56th Street. We're one of the lowest, and compared to all the cities similar to ours in size, we're one of the lowest.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not gonna make that decision now, but I just wanted to make sure you said that, because we obviously have a lot of complaints and a lot of issues when it comes to flooding, and especially around hurricane season. So it's important to hear this. So okay, thank you.
Right now, our rate is $2.50 a month per residential unit.
Mayor, I was asking Jose about
Yeah.
the stormwater fee, and I asked him, how do we compare with other municipalities? And he says we're actually one of the lowest fees in the county, I guess, right? And so I think that's something important, not now, right? I mean, because, we're dealing with a lot now, but maybe in the future to take a look at that, especially when we have hurricane season coming around, we get a lot of complaints with flooding. So thank you, Jose.
Through the chair?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, you should have said through the chair first.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the first year that I do not call Armando Vidal to the podium to ask about the stormwater. Every single year I say we have to do something about stormwater, we have to do something, right? Because of hurricane season. So thank you, Councilman Tunido, for bringing that up. Or was it me this time?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Comment. This is a perfect example of, this is a perfect comment, it's a perfect example that I kept on talking to Jose. And I asked him, when is this street gonna get done? When is this street gonna get done? He kept saying, well, maybe I got a budget for 2028, 2027. And that's when reality hit me, the needs of the city. Because as I walk the streets, I keep on walking, I see the needs, and I keep on coming. Louis, yeah, I got a plan, but 2027, 2028. So just thank you for giving me the information, and hopefully next year we'll get you a wish list done. But we got to do what we got to do, right? So thank you, sir. And thank you for getting.
going to be here till then.
Actually, it was 2 hours with him.
Jose, you are silent thunder. You don't speak much, but you get things done. Yes, thank you, sir. Okay. 8G, any other comments from the dais on 8G or pleasure of the council? Motion from Councilwoman Casals Munoz on
Second.
8G.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Garcia Robes. Please call the roll.
Ms. Perez? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor? Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Madam Clerk, did you have any clarification on 8C that you
8E?
needed to discuss? No, but 8C, we're not going to clarify that?
No, we've already
Okay.
corrected it.
Right, okay, no, we had another issue. Yeah, 80, please read 80 into the record.
Proposed resolution reaffirming the current rate of 4.0% of all sales of wastewater service and all sales of water service within the city as payment in lieu of franchise fee pursuant to Hialeah, Florida Code Section 94-163 for fiscal year 2023, beginning on October 1st, 2022, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Madam Casal Munoz, this applies directly to your,
You don't need any amendment. The franchise fee will remain at 4%, and then the general fund.
okay.
Notwithstanding, we'll bring back the criteria here because the intent is not to start this until after the new year.
8E, pleasure, open for public discussion. Having none, pleasure of the council. Sir. The franchise? Oh, the UARP.
Thank you. What we're going to do is we're just going to transfer the monies when we need them, correct? We'll transfer them. So the franchise fee will be 3.75 and the difference will be what we're using for this fund. We're, yes.
And then we review it. I'm sorry, 1 year, Councilman, we review it, and then we look at the validity of the program, how's it impacted? Because we want to make sure that the criteria, and like I said, I'll bring it back here, but we want to make sure the criteria is tight, so we're helping those of most need. I just say, I want to apply and get it. We want to help the ones with most need.
Mayor, if the total isn't used, 200,000
Goes right back.
We're only going to pull it out as it's needed, right?
I
Or
think
put it
that-
in,
no,
correct?
I think that might be the way. Yeah.
Okay.
No, Mayor, because you and I have had this conversation.
Mhm. We have.
We don't want to be the county and see what they're doing with all that outrageous, shenanigans. But I do think in the city of Hialeah, there is a need, right? And so as long as it's a year, and then we can review it after.
Councilman, we share the anxiety, and we want to make sure that we do it and we do it right. That's why I want to bring it back. I don't want to just call it a program. It's a pilot. We bring it back, we review it. You'll be involved in the criteria of it so that we know who we're trying to help, and then we could just review it after a year. If we think it's working, we could do an extension of it, but do it year by year, not, because then it'll never end.
Right.
Through the chair.
We have them. Oh, sir, go ahead.
So unfortunately, I don't have the resolution on hand, but obviously I've been talking about this subsidy assistance program since January. So I wanted to propose a competing, I guess, program, calling it WARP, WARP, a new account for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. I, however, would like to amend the franchise fee not from 4% to 3.75, but rather 4% to 3.5. That should be approximately $400,000 a year. Proposed program to review applications and qualifications by the city grants office. Program to start in January. Criteria, however, would be different. I would like to cap it at 80% of AMI, considering that is what our affordable housing units are in the city of Hialeah. So these are the people with the most need. And with a limit of aid in line with FPL, which has a similar program, which is funded through the county. Obviously, the proof of household income will be required, and I'm sure all the intricacies will have to be laid out by our folks at the grant department. Just to note, though, however, by doing this, we're sort of taking from Peter to give to Paul in the sense that, we are charging the franchise fee first on the water consumer. Then we're sending it over to the general fund. But presumably, there is sort of an internal tax that we give ourselves by doing this money maneuvering. In addition to the WARP program, I also want to sort of amend, if you will, for another 0.5% to bring down the franchise fee to 3%, which is, I think, the requisite minimum that we're allowed to under the ordinance. And the additional 0.5% of $400,000 would be towards the other initiative that I've been speaking about, which is to have more water meter readers in our city. Approximately $400,000 would be in that sort of pocket. And I think that should get us at least up from 7 meter readers up to the 15 that I think our city is much needed. So those are my two programs.
Thank you. Madam Attorney, until we identify the same needs, do we vote on this as is? How do we proceed on 8E, given the councilman's suggestion?
So definitely, I think the cleanest way to proceed at this time is the way that, I was explaining with Councilperson Casal Muñoz's proposal, which is in order to reduce your franchise fee, you need to bring forward an ordinance. Then you would need to adjust your respective department's program to demonstrate the expenditure, right? Because there's going to be extra revenue to then expend that. I think that at this moment, we are in a better position to determine the programs, whichever funding proposal we want to discuss, because if the franchise fee remains under the ordinance at 4%, then the money is in the general fund, and within the general fund, you can then fund one of the two initiatives. At this point, I think that you move the resolution as presented, and
Transfer the funds.
The mayors expressed a support for Councilperson Casal Muñoz's proposal, and the intention was to present to this council on final adoption an operating budget or a general fund budget that would show the set aside of the proposal. So I think that at the time of final adoption, knowing that there is a proposal by Councilperson Bravo, then we can discuss that adjustment, right? Because you're going to have created a line item for an initiative related to this purpose, and then you can determine how much to fund it. It's going to come out of the same fund budget. So I would suggest that you respectfully move on this proposal, and we can address the specific amount of funding within the operating budget for this proposal.
Right, through the chair.
Ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry, you were going
No,
to.
I just wanted some clarification from the city attorney. So how would the process work, right? So the mayor is going to amend the budget, right? Come back with a proposal for second reading with a new sort of line item, right? So that would be at the mayor's discretion to include the program that he sort of like. That's the part that's confusing me.
I think this is the mayor's budget. You have voted on an operating budget and approved an operating budget at this time. We are far along the approval of these items. And so I think you have heard the mayor affirmatively state that he will bring back to you on final adoption an operating budget that reflects Councilperson Muñoz's proposal to the tune of $200,000, right? So I think at the time on that would be the mayor's proposal, subject to the council's approval. If you wish to amend that proposal on final adoption, then you would require a 5 vote in support of the measure in your direction.
Okay. Through the chair, just
Yes,
for my
sir.
clarification, because I'm a little confused. I thought the mayor, the moment we started this meeting, we started voting on things, that the mayor has sort of relinquished the budget towards the city council to amend as they wished. So the mayor can essentially still make changes from now until the next 2 weeks?
Well, the council has to adopt the budget, but in order to make an amendment to the budget, council initiated amendment, you require 5 votes. I have not heard any amendments being proposed other than this one, which garners the mayor's proposal. It didn't garner any council action. So the mayor will in fact present to you an adjustment to the operating budget on final adoption. If you wish to make an adoption
a change to operating budget at this moment. Having voted and adopted that budget, the only thing would be a reconsideration at this moment, tonight.
Okay, so to understand, to just reiterate what you said, the mayor's the one making the change, and that's why he's able to do it without the 5 votes.
Without a question in my mind, I understand he supports the proposal.
Okay,
And he will make that.
got it,
Mayor's here.
understood.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, I want to do that, then I want to go ahead and, formally request that we amend that and, with the 5 votes or whatever.
Through the chair.
One moment, I have a
Oh, sorry about that.
request
Go
from
ahead, sorry.
Councilman.
No,
Councilwoman Casal Munoz, would you like to?
Thank you. I've been
defer
called
to-
to everything today.
How many times
Munoz,
yesterday?
Casal, council,
Who's
sir,
counting?
councilman. Okay.
Would you like- go on.
Let
Yes, sir.
the
You're
councilman
recognized.
speak.
Just for clarification, Councilman Calvo, so just to be clear, so you stated that you would like to reduce this from 4 to 3, the franchise fee. Is that fair?
Yes, I mean, in parts, but yes, I think that's.
And so that cost is, what, $1 million or something like that, Armando? 800,000? So let's call it 800,000. So you saying, Councilman, that you want to grab the 800,000 from general revenue?
No, what I'm saying is I'd like to reduce the franchise fee from 4% to 3%, understanding that we don't have an ordinance ready to vote on that. So there might be some kind of jumping around to get there. But again, this is something I've been talking about since January. I didn't just come up with this 30 seconds ago. What I'm saying, and what I've been talking about for a couple months already, was that 0.5% reduction, which would give us a pocket of money of approximately $400,000 to $500,000 that we could play with in terms of quote unquote subsidizing, or more creatively providing an assistance program to people that cannot afford. Unfortunately, the reason for this program, to be clear, is that we have a lot of bad accounts in the water department. And so this enables us in a way to actually settle some of these accounts, if that's the path that the criteria wants to take, or the criteria could be more in line with mirroring the program that currently exists in the county for FPL bills. So if you're a senior, you make a certain threshold in your house, you could apply for this county program with county dollars, and they will essentially give you a check at the end of the year for your FPL bill to lower that amount that you're paying on a month-to-month basis. The idea being is that you want FPL bills for those people to be sub $100, right? So I think it would be a similar concept, what we would be doing with water. Obviously, we just have to determine the criteria specifically, because you're going to have a pocket of money, and you either are going to stretch that as much as possible towards your residents, or you're going to provide as much relief as possible, knowing that it's going to affect less people. But in order to have, I think, a substantive program, you're going to need that additional 400,000 rather than the much lower 0.25, because with $200,000, I mean, we have 230,000 residents. If you look at the census, we obviously have 60,000 or so water accounts, but we're talking about, I mean, you guys have been harping me on dollars and pennies. This is dollars and pennies, right, in subsidies. So that's why I moved for the 0.5. Separately from that, the other 0.5 is for the water meter readers, which is, I think, critical to having a system that is transparent, that the residents of Hialeah trust in. Just this last week, and I'm sure you guys have gotten the calls as well, I had a resident that reached out because his water meter was completely unreadable. He had gotten he claims at least $100 more overcharged, and he couldn't read his meter. So I think it's critical that we put a path forward, and this is not some crazy figure, right? I mean, we were talking about 15 readers when we were doing our water workshops, that apparently that's what we had. But if you look at the budget, what we're budgeting for 2023 is 7 people, right? That's the reality of it. So I think it's important that we have those people, boots on the ground, that are looking at every meter, replacing the ones that need to be replaced proactively. And it shouldn't require our intervention in order to get that done. So those are the two programs. I regret that I don't have a great name for the second one, but I'm open to suggestions. But yeah.
The warp sounds pretty cool, but so I just want to make sure I understand. So Armando, I remember when I first got here, when we got here, we were pretty hard on you on this franchise fee. Como te dimos palo ahí. And so what I wanted to understand is, when I had talked about removing the fee back then, I remember your response perfectly. Never forget it. It said, Jesus, where we're going to find the $7 million. So if we were to reduce this from 4 to 3, I mean, how does that impact us?
Franchise fees in 23 would generate about $3.5 million, $3.2 million at 4%. So somebody said $800,000. So that's what you're looking at on a percentage basis. One word that I do want to clarify is we do have an item that I have discussed with both the mayor and Mr. Calvo coming to council on the 28th, I believe it is, or 27th, whenever you have the other
27,
meeting.
yeah.
Which increases is to hire a private company as a pilot project that the mayor and I discussed to increase, as part of the workshops as well, to increase the number of meter readers.
Oh, good.
We're
Okay.
bringing a
Yeah.
company from Fort Lauderdale
Okay.
to do that. If you're approving, that would be the recommendation. A percentage point is worth about 800,000.
Yeah.
So, and like I said to the chairman previously, when he sat on that end, there's no free lunch, right? So if you take 800,000 and reduce it, it has to come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's revenue that is not going to go into the general fund.
Right.
So the general fund is going to have to adjust those numbers as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And proceed accordingly.
Yeah. It's like
Even though, remember, like I was talking to Lorena, it's circular, right? You're going to use 400,000, 200,000, whatever the number is, whichever way you lay out the program, and you're going to give it to somebody to pay their water bill. So that's coming back to the department as revenue. But under that revenue, that delta that's coming back, you're going to be paying a lesser amount because now the franchise fee is not 4%. It's going to be either 3.5, 3.75, or 3%, whatever you decide.
Okay.
Okay.
Kind of reminds me of that saying. Remember that saying a couple years ago? Lipstick on a what?
A pig and a pig, and a pig.
Well, I always tell you something, and I said it before. Mayor wasn't here. Some of you were not here. Remember, a budget is a living, breathing document. Don't get hung up on this thing that is a plan that allows you to draw a path forward. And at some point in time, as circumstances changing, as outside forces force you to change, you will adjust it accordingly.
Right.
And that's what's happening today.
Okay. Thank you, Armando. And then I'm glad. Thank you for bringing up the meters. That's one thing I think we all agree on with
Yeah.
with
It's
Councilman
meter
Calvo.
readers, it's not meter.
The meter readers,
Meter
correct, correct. Yeah,
Right.
100%. And then just Councilman, just the last point. As I mentioned earlier, I have a hard time. I get a little heartburn when we talk about subsidizing and all that. And 800,000 seems like a lot of money. I think it's always best to start off as a pilot to be able to identify the need, right? And I think after that year, how the mayor said, we look at the program, we see what's the need. I mean, we've had other programs before to provide rental assistance, and only 20% of the funds were used, and then the money had to go back. So I think to take a conservative approach, I think it's best to let's start small and see where we go at the end of the year.
Yeah, through the chair. Not to be confusing, but it's not $800,000 in subsidy, right? We're talking about $400,000. The other $400,000 is to pay for the additional water meter readers, separate program, not named currently. I mean, if I have it under the good word of our mayor and director of public works that we're going to bring that item forward for the sort of, creatively speaking, contracting out of our water meter services, reading services to the company from Fort Lauderdale, then, perhaps it is prudent, like you're saying, to hold back and just put the franchise fee at 3.5% and only proceed forward with this WARP program. Again, I don't know, obviously, I wouldn't want to be also in a position where we sort of forego the water meter reading at this time, and we're put in a position where that item doesn't come before us. So that was my only consideration on that half of it. But to be clear, I'm not talking about an $800,000 subsidy. I'm talking about a $400,000 water assistance relief program to help specifically seniors who are at 80% of AMI, which is the same rate that we use for affordable housing products in the city, to provide them the relief in water, seeing as though this body's already moved forward against my better wishes to raise the water an additional 6% for next year. So that is my proposal.
Sir.
So I want to be clear again, because I know that we'll now deal with Miami Herald's narrative, and then we'll deal with all those that on the radio. City of Hialeah is not raising your water. The city of Hialeah is not raising your water. Okay? The county's doing it. If you have issues, I think it's important that we all go down then to the county. In fact, your mayor had a meeting in Miami Lakes recently. They've gone there and complained to the mayor. They've raised the water. We are embarking on a mission to try to nullify as much as we can. As much as we can. We're eating already a large percentage of it. Okay? And I want to make sure that the Miami Herald understands this. We're eating a big percentage of this. Okay? What we're proposing is to then go even further and try to create a program that, forgive me, council member, did not come from you in January, okay? Came way before that, because we've been having these conversations. Because I got elected by the same people that elected you, and I was very mindful. Very mindful. And in fact, perhaps the first conversation I had with Armando Vidal was, we need to create a program to help people. And I use the terms South, Southern Bell, I don't even know what it's called anymore. I use the terms FPL in ways that we could address this issue. My proposal is to start this small, and then you could address it if the need. It's all going to be based on the criteria that you use, okay? Because while many were talking about a rent subsidy, as the Councilman Tundido just pointed out, we have been having to put bells and whistles for people to come, because once you start going into a criteria and people don't meet it, a lot will be determined by that criteria. And the intent is going to be to help those in most need, not just seniors, although obviously that's going to be, I expect, the lion's share, but also those that lose a job, can demonstrate it, and then it's not permanent. So I just want to be clear, okay? The city of Hialeah is not raising the water fee. The county, through its obligations, is doing it, and we're acting as a pass-through and then doing things to try to eat as much of it as possible. And unless you want to raise the millage rate so we could hire more meter readers, which I know you don't want to do, and I would not propose, we're going to have to live with what we have right now until we could address these other issues. And by the way, there are still other things that we need to address in the water department as far as monthly billing and as far as customer service, okay? But we just started. We just started addressing the issues that I think the residents have been calling for and asking. But believe me, to get to this point in this budget has taken a lot of work, okay? And so what I would propose is what we had talked about earlier. Let's start small. We had contemplated a bigger number, but I'd rather start small and see how it goes, and then have the luxury to grow the number if we need to. But again, be very, very careful that we do not create something that then has to be sustained year after year after year, and then there'll never be enough money in it. And then before you know it, the pressures on the general fund become larger and larger and larger.
Sir. That being said, we still have to take a vote on 8E as is, right? Madam Attorney, is my understanding. Did you need to make your comment, or you good? So we need do Do we have a motion on 8E?
Motion.
Motion from Councilman Rodriguez. We have a second on 8E. Second from Councilwoman Garcia Rovez. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Casal Munoz? Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 8H, please.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the special revenue funds of the city of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Before I come to you, Councilman Tundido, because I know you had a comment on special revenue funds, any comments or any input from the audience on 8H? That being said, sir?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Miss Ruby, or I'm sorry, just whoever, mayor, whoever it is. Because I don't even know what this, I'm assuming this is impact fees, but why is there a huge discrepancy between, I guess the proposed budget of 43 million and then I guess last year's budget at 93 million?
So last year, we had received the ARPA funds, and you will notice.
Okay, got it,
the
got
last
it, got it, got it,
year
got it.
that
Okay.
there was $62 million of ARPA funds.
Yeah. No,
That
got
has
it.
been reduced.
Got it. Okay. And then also this also includes the impact fees, right? This in this specific category? Oh, it's capital? Yeah. Did we vote on the capital yet? No?
No.
Okay, that's next. Okay, never mind. All right, motion.
Motion for 8H from Councilman Tundidor. Second from Councilwoman Casal Munoz. Please call the roll.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Rovez?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28th, 2022.
Madam Clerk, 8I, please.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the capital projects funds of the city of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. 8I is open for public discussion, if any. Having none, did you want to discuss something here? Councilman Tundidor?
Yes, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you. So can you help me understand this difference, Ms. Ruby? I guess last year was 13.8 million, and then this year we're at 7.8, and this is specific to the impact fees, correct?
Remember, we're streaming. We're streaming. We need to, okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Pedro DeFari, Assistant Director of Budget and Finance. So the actual budget for the Capital Projects Fund is 12.7, because the top line that you're looking at is the revenue coming in, but the balancing number is right below it is 4.8 million for fund balance, and that's pretty much some funds we had already in those specific funds that we use for capital projects that we're appropriating this year. So the budget is slightly different than last year.
Okay, so 12.7 versus 13.8. So my question, so my question is, last year we revamped some of the impact fees. Some were reduced and then some were added. Regardless, there was still a net gain. So why doesn't it reflect here? It seems like, right? It doesn't reflect that.
So I think. So what I believe happened is there was a change in the timing of when the impact fees were collected. It was shifted later on during the fiscal year, which some of those funds this year in 2022 just started trickling in. So with the exception of parks, which a lot of their park impact fees are already coming in, the other funds, we just started receiving it. So what we did is just appropriate it again in 23 with an idea now that we have the directors in place and we have a capital plan, and we just appropriated those funds to the liking of the mayor and the council.
There's just a lot of development that went on since last year to now, so.
It's a good news.
Well, I mean, not so good that we didn't
Going
collect the
forward,
money
going
on it. Oh,
forward,
yeah.
going forward, going
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is that a motion or just you needed to make
It's a
that
motion.
comment? Motion? Okay, motion from
Second.
Councilman Tundidor, second from Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28, 2022.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 8J, please.
First reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the debt service funds of the city of Hialeah, Florida for fiscal year 2023, commencing on October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
8J is on first reading, but open for public discussion, if any. Having none, pleasure of the council on 8J. Sorry? Anyone online? Am I missing somebody? Okay, going once and no one. Am I missing someone? Other than that, pleasure of the council otherwise?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Second.
Second from, ladies and gentlemen, we have a tie. Second from Councilwoman Garcia Robes. Please call the roll.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez? Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for September 28, 2022.
Mayor, I want to congratulate you for the first half of your first budget. Looking forward to the last one.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
This meeting is officially adjourned at 9:06 PM. Thank you, everyone.